Alright, here's the back glass for the Comet shuffle target. So I sealed this with Krylon triple thick. I actually used an entire can on the back. You can see there's quite a bit of flaking that was happening where this paint would have come right off. So the approach I took, even as I was pulling it out of the machine, pieces were falling off. I put it down, cleaned the front, cleaned off a lot of the back where I wasn't having flaking, and then actually just kind of blew on it with my own breath to blow away some of the smaller pieces. Then I put a light coat of triple thick on to kind of hold pieces in place. Then I put a heavy coat on, and that's what basically used the whole can. You can see somebody had touched up here in the past, and I'm going to turn it over and take a look at the front so we can see what it looks like. And it actually isn't that bad on the front. So next step is going to be, because after I put the first coat of triple thick on, you just use my fingers and gently rub, because there were some parts sticking up that my fingers caught and kind of pulled those off. They were so far away from the glass I don't think any more triple thick would have put it on. So it broke off just a few little pieces. Now I'm going to try to touch it up and then reseal it with triple thick again. Let's take a look at the front. Okay, so you can see that blue took a real lion's share of the damage here. Here's where the person before had touched up, and it's not a color match, but it looks a lot better. This looks a lot better than this. So by trying to match the blue, that's probably what I'm going to do first. I'll try to touch up a segment, let it dry, see if the paint matches. If it doesn't, I'll wipe it off and try a different color. But I'm hoping to use something just right out of the jar. The interesting part will be, does it match here? And then over here, where the paint has actually separated from the glass, there's like an air gap. It's a different color of blue than where it's still stuck to the glass. All right, here we are after first attempt. You can see a lot of paint. I used blue here that actually has a pretty good match. Touched up the reds, the yellows too, and also the greens. I'm going to flip it over so you can see what that looks like on the back side. Also did the points for these spots that I had eroded. Here again you can see where somebody had previously done some work, and I'm kind of regretting not trying to take that off, but the way it's on there, it's bonded so hard that it's going to mess up the screen part. So I'll explain that later when the lights are on behind that. I think this blocks out some of the numbers and letters. Let's see how it looks on the front. Okay, so here it is from the front. Ignore this down here, that's reflection from the light above. Maybe look more in this area or this area, where you can see that blue was a pretty good match. You can see I'm starting to work on the yellow points. There's a black line that's going to come in on that. I'm going to use X-Acto knife to try to get that cleaned up. Here are some examples where the red leaked through. So I'm going to turn this over, use an X-Acto knife to cut out the red, update the white, and it should look okay. I think the yellows look good. I use solid paint. I think this is translucent, so when I shine a light through there, you'll see the touch-up. So I might black that out from the back, the yellow part, so just the numbers show up. Good progress. The last thing I'm going to try to do, some of these parts that are separating out where I tried to seal it in with paint, this might be a good example. Hopefully it shows up on the camera where it's really flaking. I'm going to flip that over. I'm going to take an X-Acto knife and cut out some of the loose parts that aren't making contact with the glass. The reason for that is my paint match is pretty darn close, and I think I can get a better seal to the glass and color match, and then seal it again with the triple thick on the back to prevent that loose stuff from working its way out again in the future. Now I'll show what I'm doing here. So here's a section of the back glass that has bubbled up, and I had it sealed, and then I painted over the top of it. And then, so what I did now is I went through with an X-Acto knife and I cut around an edge, a border. And I'm just gonna scrape that out, including my previous touch-up, because I want to get a consistent blue there. So I'll get this whole area emptied out, and it'll look somewhat similar to this area here. It's not quite done yet, but we'll have these big areas that are open where I can get a solid blue instead of this flaky, patterny, spiderwebbish looking blue. Here's what the back of that black line touch-up looks like as you're doing it. So where I had the red showing, I'd scrape it off real gently with an X-Acto knife, and then I'd touch up. Got some letter work to do here. If you look top of this P, you'll see the red is actually invading where the black is supposed to be, and then here's some red and black missing. So what I'm going to do is get the black lines drawn in for letters. I'll have to scrape this out real carefully with an X-Acto knife, and then I can close that off. And I'll do that to all the players. And then I've also got some other sections of black. Let me move the camera. Right here where this has all come out. So I'll repaint the black, then I'll bring in this teal color and the blue. I want the black in the front because it'll block the most light. So if I get the black in there, I can trim it if I have to with an X-Acto knife, and I don't have to worry about the black leaking over the lighter colors if I put the black down first. After I do the black, like for instance here in the first player, you can see it's missing black here. Then I'll also have to peel out this white red that's into the white. I'll put down the white, and then I'll do the final red. So I'm going to try an experiment here on player 6. I'm pulling all of the background red off, or almost all of it. If there was no bubbling, I'm going to try to leave it, but everything else I'm going to scrape out all around the letters, and I'm going to paint it all solid red to see if I can get rid of that mottled look. So I'll do that, paint the background, and then flip it over and compare 6 to one of the other ones, which is partially painted. All right, here we are. Scraped all the blue out, scraped all the red out, repainted 3 of the reds. I've got 3 to go. So just scraped out the blue. I'll have to touch up all the blacks and whites in the front, and then put the red and the blue back in. I ended up stripping out every bit of blue except the very top, which I'll explain later. Scraped it all out all the way to the edges, and then redid all the blue, and then of course had to touch up black lines and some of the other colors. Now I'm starting to cover it with silver acrylic. It's probably going to take 2 coats, obviously. You can see it's not covering everything. But the idea is to get it just a silver mask, kind of make it look like the original silver backing. Alright, so here's the results after silvering the back. Now the silver looks good from the back, but it's really not very functional. It is almost translucent. I had to put like 2 or 3 coats down, really lumpy too. So I'm trying something different over on the far end where you can see the gray circles. I'm just using a charcoal acrylic paint, which seems to have better cover, and I'm guessing I'll be able to just with 2 coats have it covered up. Then I might cover it with silver just so it looks all right, but really you don't need silver on the back. No one's going to see it except if you're pulling the back glass out. You could use like a flat gray, and it might not look beautiful, but it would meet the need it's supposed to do, which is mask out the light. Now I might still, since I have some silver, cover those gray circles just so it is all silver, but silver's not working that well. Like on the red player windows, it's still not it's still somewhat translucent, and I wanted it to be blacked out except for the letters, so silver not the best choice. So I did decide to put some gray, flat gray, around the player windows because there was just enough translucent light coming through that when those lights are on, it's going to look like it was painted. And by blacking this out with this gray, it really prevents any light from coming in. So I'm really happy with how that looked. And I won't be able to see how this looks lit up until I get the machine working, which may be a challenge because it's missing some parts I'm not sure where I'm going to get. Have to make those up, I guess. But I'll show what it looks like in the back box at least. Alright, here's the final version in its glory. I've got it stored in a nice climate-controlled basement for a while. It's going to be a while before I actually work on the machine. I think it turned out pretty well. You can see anything above the score reels was the old, where somebody had touched it up with some paint that doesn't quite look right. And then from the score reels down, basically anything red or blue was replaced, and then touched up a lot of the borders. It's not perfect, but I think it's better than it was.